So there's
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. Yes, sorry, I'm curling my hair. I love that you're kind of yeah. Oh, perfect. See? Perfect. I was just trying to keep you triage. And then I think you're spending part of the day or coming to that and then
we get started in just a moment, so if everyone can get seated. All guys ready to live stream?
We're live.
Where's Kelly? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for everyone who's returning or for joining us for the first time today at the Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize Summit. Yes. Woo-hoo. Once again, I am Lynn Abramson, the president of the Clean Energy Business Network, which has worked alongside the U.S. Department of Energy to convene this summit. We are here today to celebrate the 10 winning teams of the DOE's Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize, who are working to address local clean energy challenges or inequities in disadvantaged communities across the country. So let's give another round of applause for these terrific teams. All of these teams are already winners and have already passed a number of tests to be here today and really risen to the cream of the crop of a lot of very qualified projects across the country. But today we will also be announcing 3 supplemental prize winners, and Kelly's going to talk a little bit about that in a few moments. We appreciate everyone who has been here today and yesterday as well to cheer on these teams, exchange your ideas and resources with each other, and to be part of this incredible community of change makers. Today, we are going to hear the pitches from these teams who are going to tell us a little bit more about their projects, showcase the work they have done so far and how far they have come over the past year, as well as share some of their visions for the future. So we will have pitches, 2 pitches grouped at a time with breaks in between, and then a lunch in between. And at the end of the day, we will gather for ideation sessions with the teams. So for those of you who were here yesterday where we had our workshops towards the end of the day, we're going to be doing that, but focus on helping these teams share their visions for the future and think about some of the resources, partnerships, and other kinds of recommendations that our audience members can offer to them. And then we'll have some time at the end of the day for networking. So we hope you'll take advantage of all those opportunities to speak with one another. I want to quickly thank our sponsors again for making this event possible. So to Ecosphere Ventures, who is sponsoring today's showcase and pitch competition, and also the Bipartisan Policy Center's American Energy Innovators Network that sponsored yesterday's workshops, the Business Council for Sustainable Energy, our reception sponsor yesterday, and Breakthrough Energy, who is sponsoring the live stream so that we can bring this conversation to communities across the nation. I also want to say thank you to our promotional partners for all of their efforts to spread the word about this event, and the entire army of people from the Department of Energy, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, Clean Energy Business Network, the Atlanta University Center, and other vendors that have worked hard to support these prize-winning teams over the past year and to prepare for today's summit. So I thanked a lot of folks by name yesterday. I won't get into all of that again today, but it really does take a village. So at this point, I would like to it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Charlene Gilbert, the Provost and Senior Vice President at Clark Atlanta University, who is hosting us here on this beautiful campus, the Atlanta University Consortium, which is a consortium of Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse College and School of Medicine, and Spelman College. So thank you, Dr. Gilbert, for hosting us today, and please join us up on the stage.
Thank you. It sounds like you all have just had a really wonderful day and a half so far, and it's exciting to see everybody here. And I look forward to seeing the winning projects and learning more. On behalf of President George French, President of Clark Atlanta University, I'm here today just to present some brief welcome remarks. We'd like to welcome you to our historic campus. Clark Atlanta University is part of the Atlanta University Consortium, which, as you just heard, includes Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse College, and Spelman College. I hope if you have time to walk around in between your breaks that you'll read some of the historic plaques. They really tell a powerful story about how much history related to human rights and civil rights happened right here in this 8-block radius. On my very first day as provost, which was not that long ago, it was about 6 months ago, I was very excited, and I got to the campus really early. You know how you get excited sometimes, the last thing you want to do is be late, right? So you overestimate, and I was living in a hotel that was only like 10 minutes away, and I think I got here about 30 minutes early. But it gave me the opportunity to walk around, and as I stood in the quiet of the morning, because it was probably about 8 a.m., 7:30, 8 a.m., there weren't many people around, the sun was shining, and I stood and I read some of these plaques and realized that I was standing in a place where young people, 16, 17, 18 years old, led a movement to change the world. And they changed this nation, and they changed my life story and the story of my children. And they were just kids. Julian Bond, right? Jesse Jackson. They were just Andrew Young. They were young people who were able to shift the course of history. And I thought it was powerful, and it made me understand that I was really standing on what President French often talks about as sacred ground. You were here hosting this event on sacred ground. And so I hope you can take a moment to just breathe in the significance of that and take that with you back to your communities when you return. We are part of the HBCU community, the historically Black colleges and universities, and we play a very special role in higher education. You may or may not know this, but HBCUs comprise only 3% of the country's colleges and universities, yet we produce almost 20% of all African-American graduates. So of all the African Americans who are graduating from college next year, 20% will have been produced by less than 3% of the schools. We produce 25% of African American graduates with STEM degrees. 50% of Black doctors in this country went to an HBCU. 50% of Black attorneys went to an HBCU, and 80% of the Black judges were produced by an HBCU. And as the Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at Clark Atlanta University, I can tell you that we are working very, very hard to produce the next generation of leaders committed to service and excellence. This semester, we welcome just over 4,000 students to Clark Atlanta University, about 3,400 undergraduates and 600 graduate students. We are the largest HBCU in the UNCF collection. Here at CAU, we are extremely proud of our mission and our legacy. Clark Atlanta University is one of the top performers on social mobility in the nation, ranked number 61. The CAU School of Education is ranked second amongst all HBCU schools of education, and is the number 3 school of education in the state of Georgia amongst all the schools of education, both at HBCUs and all other universities in the state. Our School of Social Work is ranked number 51 nationwide, so amongst all schools of social work and social work programs in the country, at both HBCUs and PWIs, we're number 51 in the nation. We have an art museum that if you have any time, try to drop by our art museum. The CAU Art Museum has one of the foremost collections of African-American art and sculpture in the nation. Its last appraised value was at $55 million, and that was in 2009. We're currently doing our next appraisal, and we anticipate that collection will be well over $100 million by that point. If you are in New York in February, the Museum of Metropolitan Art will be hosting an exhibit called the Harlem Renaissance. The lead painting in that is from the collection of Clark Atlanta University. It's called Woman in Blue by William H. Johnson. I am an art fan. I have an MFA as well as a PhD, and I'm a filmmaker, and so I'm really quite enamored with, anytime I can go to a museum or art museum, I do. I've been seeing Johnson's work my whole adult life. I had no idea that several of the images that I find most moving are here in the collection of Clark Atlanta University. And I think when you see the exhibit at the Met, you will recognize many of those pieces, and now you'll know that if you want to see the original, you just need to come visit us and you can be my guest. CAU is also home to one of the largest centers for cancer research and therapeutic development, focused specifically on prostate cancer in African-American men and the health disparity. African-American men are more than twice as likely to die from prostate cancer as white men, and our research center has been focused on trying to identify therapeutic drugs and treatments that can eliminate that health disparity. In addition, my faculty would like you all to know that we are actively engaged in developing the next generation of leaders in climate, clean tech innovation, and environmental justice. Clark Atlanta University has been a trailblazer in championing global and community clean energy since 2017. Our Artificial Intelligence-Enabled Climate Innovation Center, CIC, also known as the AICIC, stands at the forefront. This hub serves as a sustainable AI-enabled market enabler, promoting clean technologies and workforce development. The AICIC hub is led by Dr. Ola Tidoye. He is driving innovation and actively engaged in collaboration with the World Bank and a network of HBCU partners working to establish clean energy mini-grid power generation capacity. This initiative will support eco-entrepreneurs and ventures dedicated to locally appropriate climate change solutions. In addition, our CAU researchers, in partnership with the World Bank, have adopted the World Bank Climate Innovation Center template to provide targeted support, mentoring, and apprenticeship to train approximately 70 startup companies in energy-burdened communities surrounding HBCUs. Leveraging our experience and infrastructure, including the CAU Center for Alternative Renewable Energy Technology and Training and the Center for Additive Manufacturing, we have expanded our reach from training tribal colleges to developing climate innovation centers in Nigeria. Our commitment to sustainability extends globally. Recognizing the complexity of societal challenges in climate, energy, water, health, and long-term economic development, CAU emphasizes collaboration. Our partnerships with organizations such as NREL, ORNL, IBM, Boeing, and many others are a testament to our collective approach to innovation. Locally, we are engaged in an innovative partnership called the AUC Sustainable Campus Community Initiatives Project through the Atlanta University Center. The initiative leverages the collaborative efforts of all the AUC institutions with a focus on sustainability. Moreover, CAU serves as a bridge for education and green job creation, addressing the needs of youth and women in energy-burdened HBCU communities. Through the Energy Shed concept, we extend our impact to developing countries in Africa, fostering eco-entrepreneurship and green workforce development. In addition to these initiatives being launched by our STEM faculty, we also have faculty in the social sciences engaging in the notion of how we build leaders for sustainable communities. Most recently, the Dr. Mack Henry Jones Department of Political Science at Clark Atlanta University received a $500,000 matching grant from the Southern Company Foundation to establish an endowed professorship in sustainability studies. This grant comes at a point in our effort to institutionalize, codify, and build a political science subfield in the area of environmental policy. Our vision is that with the endowed professorship's specific focus on environmental politics and policy, urban planning, and sustainable communities and cities, Clark Atlanta University and the Dr. Mack Henry Jones Department of Political Science will be recognized as a leading center for environmental and urban sustainability policy analysis and research. I hope you can see through this brief overview that Clark Atlanta University is deeply committed to building the next generation of thought leaders, practitioners, and eco-entrepreneurs who will help us all build a sustainable future. I want to thank you for all that you all are doing to create a shared vision of a sustainable and just clean energy economy. And when I was thinking about the 2 days that you all were here and the work that you're doing, and the work of all of your organizations, it reminded me of my early days. One of my first jobs, I worked as a community organizer in Roxbury, Massachusetts, which is a predominantly Black, at least it was. It may have been gentrified by now. Are y'all still there? Okay. I worked in Roxbury, Massachusetts, and I was doing community work. And, one of my mentors said to me, said, Charlene, like, you have to think about this work the way you think about when you're painting a mural on the side of a building. It's like, we're going to paint a mural on this wall, right? I might be down there by the flag working on my piece. The gentleman just walked in with the coat. He's working on that end over there. And so we're working on little pieces, right? But it's hard to see the whole thing until you stand back. And then you can see, oh, I see, we're working on something really amazing. But when I'm up in my corner, my little piece, I can't always see it. These days, I was thinking, our conferences and gatherings like this are opportunities to stand back and see the beautiful mural that we're painting. And we may go back to our different communities, Tulsa and Roxbury and parts of Atlanta, and we may continue to work on our piece, but now we know that we're working on something that's going to be exquisite when we're done. So I thought about that. I thought that's, to me, is the essence of what you all are doing over these 2 days. And then the other thing I thought about, the second most important piece of advice that I got as a young person, was that if you are committed to doing work, if you're committed to social justice, if you're committed to trying to make the world a better place, that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you have to be committed to it for 7 generations and more. And what that means is now I'm going to digress a little bit. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and when I was a professor before I became a provost, and in my class, I had a class once called Communication and Social Change. And it was a hands-on practical laboratory course. And I had to say this disclaimer at the beginning of every class. I had to say, because Northwestern had done a lab project, a kind of similar project, but they focused on the legal system. And actually, they've been sued by a student. And the suit was that she joined the class and they did not successfully free the man that they've been working on. And so her parents sued the school and the instructor. So I thought, so at the beginning of each class, I said, if your expectation is that in the next 14 weeks we are going to end poverty, I'm going to tell you right now that's not going to happen. If your expectation is at the end of the next 14 weeks we will have solved affordable housing crisis, that's not going to happen. We do this work for 7 generations and more. And I think what the advice I got as a young woman was, when you do this work, just know that you have to be in it for 7 generations more, because you may not see the change that you're working for, but your children will see it, and your children's children see it, and your children's grandchildren will see it. And we do this work for those that will come after us. The work that you all are doing in your communities, with your projects, this organization, this is work that will serve our children, our children's children, and our grandchildren. And that is the commitment we make, and that's the work we do. And we stand on the shoulders of people who did that work for 7 generations or more. I stand on the shoulders of a grandfather who had a 3rd grade education, but believed higher education was the future for his family. And he was right. He leveraged every acre of land he had to give his 17 children the opportunity to go to college. He didn't know what was over that hill, but he knew that was the way to go. We don't know what's over the next hill, but we know the direction we're heading as we try to build a just, sustainable, and clean future. So thank you again for attending this gathering of individuals committed to providing opportunities for clean energy providers. You all are embracing one of the most important challenges of the 21st century, and I'm sure your work over the course of the summit has advanced thinking on policies and innovations that will continue to create opportunities for an inclusive and accessible clean energy economy in communities all across the United States. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and I hope you're having a wonderful time here in the AUC.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert. And I will say, yeah, I think everybody who is in this room these are folks who believe in that better future, creating that better future for their children in terms of the environment, in terms of economic development, and in terms of a just and equitable society. So thank you for that inspirational welcome and for hosting us today. So I would like to, actually, before I bring you up here, Susan, I wanted to just quickly also introduce, so everyone is aware, our judges for today. And I'm going to introduce two of them to give us welcome remarks right now. But these are the folks who will be deciding the winners of today's pitch competition, the 3 supplemental prizes, and also asking the teams questions after their pitches. So from the Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, we have 2 folks represented here today, which is Dr. Susan Ham, Director of Integrated Strategies, and Rob Sandolini, who is the Director of Strategic Initiatives. So a lot of strategy going on with these 2. And then from the Office of Energy Justice and Equity, we have Kelly Crawford, who is the Senior Advisor for Energy and Environmental Justice. And she has been very involved in this prize, so a lot of the teams will recognize her. So basically, if they like your coalition's pitch, they are going to spin their chairs around and press the button. So that's how you know that you have won. And so at this point, I would like to welcome Dr. Susan Ham to tell us a little bit more about how this prize fits into the broader EERE narrative.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here at phase 3 of this prize. This has been a long time coming, and I just want you all to give yourselves one more round of applause for making it this far. I'm so proud of you, and you should all be so proud of yourselves. I'm Sue Ham. I'm the Director of Integrated Strategies for the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, EERE. I'm proud to be here on behalf of EERE and the Department of Energy to recognize the accomplishments of every one of these teams, the inspiring competitors, and you all embody spirit of entrepreneurship across our nation, and really just a true belief in a clean energy transition. And without folks like you, we aren't going to make it. Dr. Gilbert talked about some of the students and many of the programs that are here. And yesterday, Rob and I and Karine had an opportunity to go and listen to some of the faculty and some of the students. And I will tell you that, working day in and day out towards a clean energy transition can get a little overwhelming, right? The challenges are just enormous. And every so often, I feel like it doesn't matter what I do, I can't make progress, right? Maybe I can do a little bit of a prize here, or maybe I can fund something there, but are we making progress as a nation? And then you listen to these students, right? And you say, yes, we are making progress, right? There are more students involved in this every year. There are more diverse students involved in this every year, and we can get there. And the 7 generations, right, that Dr. Gilbert just talked about, we're gonna get there. And you guys are helping us. Okay. Back to my speech. So I'm going to have the honor this afternoon of, with our other judges, presenting the awards. And the best part is that regardless of who walks out of here with those top 3 awards, right, we as a group are moving us all towards this clean energy transition. We're moving us towards equity, and all of that is so important. And I've already made you applaud yourselves again, so I won't do it. Just to give you an idea about the Department of Energy, right? Department of Energy is a $45 billion organization that is really focused on energy research and other energy topics for decades upon decades. And the work that we've done, that the department has done over the last 40 to 50 years, has really brought us to a place where there are clean energy technologies to deploy. And so now the question is, how do we get those deployed across the country? And so we're really focused on how do we get to communities? How do we bring communities along? How do we partner with communities in order to get these clean energy technologies out there and used? And prize competitions are one of the ways it's one of the best ways that we can actually move money. I don't want to say best, let me rephrase. It's one of the easiest ways to move money out the door towards partners in research who are new to the organization, new to the Department of Energy. It allows us to really break down some barriers to applications and get the funding where it needs to go. And so thank you all again for being here as part of our prize competition. The Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy is really focused in 3 particular research areas: renewable energy, sustainable transportation and fuels, and buildings and industry, which is really focused on sort of energy efficiency. Those are the research areas that we generally work in when we think about our $3 billion of research going out the door. Rob and I work in what's called the Office of Integrated Strategies. It's a relatively new office, and this office looks across all of EERE at sort of a tech neutral or a tech inclusive type of way. And we are providing programming that looks across. This prize is one example of the types of things that we do. You also heard, I think, about the HBCU prize. We have many prizes that are really intended to bring in new folks in a tech neutral way or a tech inclusive way to engage with us in the clean energy transition. And I know we're running low on time, so I'm just going to super quickly go through here. This program really aligns with 4 areas of what we do in integrated strategies and what EERE has as priorities. And those priorities include the equity issue, right? A clean energy economy that benefits all Americans. Diversity, equity, inclusion in STEM fields, right? We all know that we have to include everyone in order to make progress. We also are looking for workforce, right? That if we're really going to get to deploying of clean energy technologies across the United States, we are going to need a massive workforce that is trained and skilled and diverse to help us get there. Some of the projects you all are working on include those areas. And then, of course, there's energy transition in communities, right? And I've already talked about how it's important for us to engage and partner with communities across the United States. It's time, right? It's time to get there. Justice 40 is something that we talk about a lot at the Department of Energy, right? And I'm sure most of you are familiar with Justice 40. The idea of Justice 40 is that 40% of the benefits that accrue from federal investment should be for priority communities, for communities that are disadvantaged in some way, often of color, low income, issues like that. And so we're really working to try to make sure that we're including those in much of our programming. And I know that we need to get to Kelly to talk about the prize. So I'm going to end there, but I'm just going to say thank you once again for being here. We are so inspired, again, by the students at Clark Atlanta University and by all of your teams. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sue. And now, as she indicated, we're going to hear from Kelly Crawford, Senior Advisor for Energy and Environmental Justice, to tell us a little bit more about the prize structure. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be here today. I'm also a child of HBCUs. My mother was in the inaugural class of Morehouse School of Medicine, ultimately graduating from Howard University, where she met my father, who is also graduate of Howard University's medical school. This is sacred ground, and I'm so honored to be here and excited to be here today and to have this convening here in this space. This prize is special. The Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize has a spirit of building capacity in communities. The spirit of the prize has always been to provide opportunities to access funding to advance clean energy goals in your communities, hyperlocal issues that you selected to advance priorities in your communities. And so honored to be a steward of these funds, and so excited to see what you all have accomplished over this past year. A year is not a long time to start a revolution, but you are all well along the path to energy democracy in your communities. And for that, I thank you. This prize has 3 phases, which my teams, you guys know it, but for the folks that haven't been along for this incredible journey, just going to give a little bit of overview of the entire prize process. In phase 1, we asked you for your ideas. Find some friends, build a coalition. With that, after those awards, you got support. The power connectors that helped you along the way to develop implementation plans. In phase 2, you solidified your ideas into a plan and put them into action. After only 6 months, we started to see real tangible results from all of our teams. And today we're here to celebrate and to hear from each of you how your journey has brought you to where we are today. And we're excited to see what your plans are for the future. And so what we're looking for is, where have you come from? How have you built your coalitions? What are the challenges in your communities that you have chosen to stand up and face? And how have we been able to support you in that journey? So again, I thank you all for being here today. I thank you for your work and all of your hard, incredible work that you've done over the last year. And I look forward to seeing where these teams go next. Thank you.
And now to tell you a little bit more about this prize, we have this special video that was produced by NREL and the Department of Energy.
The Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize was established in 2022 to encourage collaboration within communities aiming to address Justice 40 initiative priorities, those who would benefit most from a clean energy transition. Funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, it brings together local coalitions, teams of stakeholders, including nonprofits, city governments, school systems, and other community organizations to uniquely meet the challenges set out in each phase.
This prize introduced a new concept for DOE, leveraging motivated, passionate community organizations to form coalitions to define and tackle local clean energy challenges in new and authentic ways. Our goal was to drive grassroots change and empower those living and working in their communities to build capacity and advance energy democracy in their communities. We have heard and answered through this prize the call to draw a closer connection between DOE opportunities and community-based organizations, building capacity and increasing our awareness of local priorities, empowering communities to actively participate in our just transition to a clean energy economy.
Along the way, these coalitions have worked together to identify the most pressing clean energy needs in their neighborhoods and communities, put their heads together to identify and solve problems, and build new relationships and networks. And they've made serious progress. Throughout the prize, they have been empowered to design strategies that address a local clean energy opportunity or challenge and earn cash awards for implementing those strategies.
We are setting the stage for coalitions to be successful in collectively solving challenges now and in the future. They are building the capacity and experience to sustain their momentum, keeping the positive impacts to their communities coming, even tapping or becoming part of the expertise and resources of the American-made network, now and down the road.
Clean Energy Business Network is a program partner vested in the team's success, helping to build their concepts, networks, and access to additional resources and opportunities. In Missoula, Montana, the Clean Energy Workforce Coalition is working to create family-supporting careers for women in clean energy. In Salinas, Puerto Rico, the Asosacion de la Residente de la Margarita is finding ways to provide resilient, cost-effective renewable energy to elderly and low-income residents in need. In Multnomah County, Oregon, the Greshman Coalition is installing air sensors to ensure clean air policy decisions are driven by data. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Positive Energy Coalition is offering free online education and hands-on experience to help low-income residents enter the solar workforce. On HBCU campuses in South Carolina and Louisiana, HBCU Greentown project is deploying community solar initiatives to boost resilience and strengthen the local workforce. The Rebuild Atlanta Coalition is providing workforce training, building retrofits, and community-based solar to Westside Atlanta residents. In Philadelphia, Team Philly is leveraging neighborhood energy centers to inform, assess, and integrate clean energy into the communities where it's needed most. The Green for All Business Council is reducing energy burden, increasing access to clean energy, and creating jobs in 10 communities around the country. The New Orleans Clean Energy Collective is leveraging art-based education to equip K through 12 and HBCUs with the tools and knowledge they need to reduce their carbon footprints. And in Atlanta, the Revitalize Our Communities Clean Energy Coalition is using solar energy to deliver fresh produce and grow the solar job pipeline. As we near the end of this groundbreaking prize, these 10 teams can look back on the great strides they've made in their communities with pride. Their collaboration has laid the groundwork for more success with ongoing initiatives in their communities that help ensure an equitable, clean energy transition for all. And today, we celebrate these teams, hear their pitches, and announce our final Phase 3 winners, along with the top performing teams in the Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize.
Wow. So that was just the sneak peek. And now we're going to actually hear the full story from these teams, as much as they can share in 5 minutes at least. So without further ado, we're going to get this competition and this showcase started. And I'm going to tell each of our teams that you each have 5 minutes, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A with the judges. Andy over here will be keeping time for you, so you can take a look at him. He will have a timer ready for you to let you know how you're doing on your time. And after the next 2 pitches, we're going to have a brief break, and we'll ask our teams to be available at the table in the back of the room to network with audience members that want to ask them some questions so that they can find you easily, and then, of course, throughout the breaks. So I think that is everything I wanted to share. So we're ready to welcome Darren Coles from Change is in the Air Gresham Coalition.
The Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize was established in
Nope. Now.
Hi, everyone. I am Duran with the Blueprint Foundation and a member of the Change in the Air Gresham Coalition, otherwise known as CAP. CAP helps young Black scientists gather and analyze air quality data for selecting and evaluating climate and energy transition solutions. Our coalition of engineers, scientists, advocates, and educators came together because we believe climate change is an air pollution problem. Furthermore, we believe climate solutions, when you include the experiences and expertise of frontline and fence-line community members, bring environmental justice. Fossil fuel usage accounts for over 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions and nearly 90% of carbon dioxide emissions. If you want to know your contribution to climate change, you should measure the air quality around you. If you want to know the impacts of poor air quality on people, you should ask frontline and fence-line community members. Everybody can help. We need solutions that reduce emissions and reduce burden on frontline and fence-line communities. But the question is, what do we do first, second, and third? Where do we do these things? And what's the impact going to be? Those prioritization processes takes data that we do not currently have. What you see here is the Purple Air Monitor Network for Portland Metro. Many Black and brown families have been pushed out to Gresham. Please take note of the distribution of monitors in Portland versus Gresham. We intend to change that. And that is what we've been doing with your money. We went to the community, we gathered their insights, their fears, their questions, and then we chartered our coalition using best practices for inclusive collaborations. We built technical and social cultural curriculum to train the scientists. We have recruited 2 cohorts. Cohort 1 is complete, cohort 2 is halfway through their training, and every cohort adds monitors to the network. Here are a few artifacts from our work. On the left, you see our recruitment flyer. On the right, you see our community engagement and the training. The scientists learn from, or I should say learn with, technologists and near-peer college mentors, grappling with research questions, learning air science, learning the code, doing microelectronics, building air quality monitors, going out into the field to learn how and where to place monitors to get robust data, and of course, how to analyze and interpret the data we collect. Speaking of the data we collect, that's going into a data platform that will be community owned and free for community to use. The scientists are also making sure that the data is understandable to community, and it will be financially supported by government and industry partners that use the data for their purposes. We know there are challenges. We've shined light on these challenges during our chartering process, and every time we bring in new coalition members, we mention these challenges there as well, from mistrust of government and data to unhelpful bureaucratic processes that slow our movement. So asking our government folks to help streamline processes, asking industry to move beyond compliance to be the best neighbors possible. That takes a lot of talking to folks and hearing their perspectives and them hearing ours until we get to a point where everyone can think systemically and act collaboratively. And it's been working. Multnomah County contracted us to analyze air quality data to measure the impacts of their wood stove changeout program, and they included us in an awarded EPA grant to measure the impacts of greening spaces in the county. Intercity Collaborative is a nonprofit that works with energy efficiency for low-income houses. They would like to have the low-cost sensors that our scientists build in these places to measure the impacts of their in-home retrofits. And school districts are also interested in learning what the air quality is like in their classrooms. We don't want this to stop in Portland. So we are packaging what we're doing, our curriculum, our processes, our lessons learned, and we're sharing them with folks. We've already started talking to people in other states, and we won't stop. We want to see a change, not only in Portland, we want to see a change in the air everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's on us. Is this working? Do we have a mic? Okay, so I'd like to ask a question. So you listed, 5 barriers that you 5 challenges, 5 barriers that you see. What do you think is the next step? And what do you think you need in order to overcome that barrier?
Which barrier should I?
Anyone you want.
Okay, let's talk about mistrust of data. So when folks don't know where data is coming from, they don't know whether they can trust it or not. And we all know that there is a history of folks being tricked by data. And so having data that is from the community, for us, by us, that has been vetted by scientists and engineers and the other folks in the coalition, so government folks as well, right? Then we can say, this is our data, we collected it, start to finish, you can trust it. So when you put these monitors in your homes, you can trust that, yes, the air is healthy, or no, it is not. And then you can make decisions for yourself, day-to-day decisions. That's what we need.
Thank you. Robert, Kelly?
So can you talk a little bit about the types of monitors that you're deploying, and in comparison to the types of monitoring that's done for regulatory processes?
Oh, okay. So I will start by saying one benefit of Coalition is that we have folks with different expertise. I do not have the expertise on regulation, but I have been listening intently for 2 years, so I will do my best. So we have two types of monitors. So we want the students to learn. So they learn using low-cost monitors, which are very similar to the Purple Air monitor network that I showed. They track PM, but they do not do co-pollutants. And so we also employ Quante-Q monitors, which do capture the co-pollutants. And so what that does for us is allows us to talk about sources of the pollution.
What are the top sources in your community?
Diesel emissions are really large. In Portland, we have a lot of folks that use wood to heat their homes. And we have folks that do not need to use wood, but they like having fires in their backyard. So those are two of the main issues. And of course, if you're talking about wood burning, then there's wood fire ovens. So if you're talking restaurants, we recently was talking to a person from the Multnomah County Department of Health, and they were very concerned about a truck depot that was being installed out in Gresham, and wanted to have monitors there to show what the impacts would be for that.
Any questions?
Sure. Great presentation. Really impressive that you've had some follow-on funding already, both from the county as well as the EPA grant that you mentioned through the county. So what's the plan to scale and continue that funding source of the business model to maintain this system, and then to grow it, as you said, and make it available outside of the Portland area?
That's built into the process. So as we're adding coalition members, we aren't just asking them to support us by sending out flyers or telling their employees about it. We want them to sponsor monitors. The monitors are the most expensive part of what we do. Those Quante-Q monitors are $6,000 each. And we want that map full of monitors. Sorry, it's taking too long. We want the map full of monitors. So $6,000 a pop, you know what that means, right? So we need sponsorship, and our coalition members, we're hoping will do that, as will having the data platform and having folks pay for the data as well.
How many monitors have you deployed?
So, I'm glad you asked, because remember I mentioned one of the challenges was bureaucratic processes. It has been very difficult to get permits for our monitors. We have 2 monitors currently active. We have 2 cohorts, so that makes sense. But we actually wanted, with that first cohort, we wanted to have 2 study sites, not 1. So as we're bringing more coalition members in from the government, we're asking them, hey, who do you know that can help us fast track these permits? Because our community needs this data.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, thank you so much, Daron. And okay. Excellent. Well, now we are going to hear from Douglas Edwards from Revitalize Our Communities, Community Clean Energy Coalition. Welcome back.
I just need to do a quick mic check. Can everybody hear me? I always have to ask that question because one of my vocal cords is paralyzed. So I had pneumonia when I was younger. Blah, 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 blah. So my volume doesn't go much above this, and I always sound worse. Okay? So we all revitalize our communities here in Atlanta. And one of the things that is probably unique about us is that when you see this list of people here, right? The one on the left at the bottom, Dr. Sangika, MD, he's my mentor. All of the other people you see listed there, I taught them in high school. And they are all now professionals in their fields. So I taught them calculus, pre-calculus, engineering, computer science, so on. Matter of fact, we know about this prize because one of the people who is in our team, Ryan Norman, who is here. Ryan is a lawyer who deals with land acquisition and renewables. And Ryan, how many acres, how many megawatts?
Yeah, so I worked on that past 12 years with companies like NextEra Energy. We've identified or reviewed tens of thousands of acres to work on some of the largest renewable energy projects in the country. And I have over 2 people today. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
So I taught Ryan in ninth grade algebra and geometry. And so our original plans, right, as you can see here, were a solar-powered hydroponic greenhouse on wheels. And through that, we would also, therefore, develop these students so that they would end up being PV solar installer certified. And we went back to the very high school that Ryan graduated and all of us graduated from, Westlake High School here in Atlanta. And we partnered with Georgia State University, who's doing our program evaluation. And in terms of Westlake High School, right, in terms of community challenges, so Westlake is right about in there, right? So it's not actually itself in a disadvantaged area. It is surrounded by disadvantaged areas. And as you can see, in terms of housing, energy, legacy pollution, so on. And so we focused initially around this idea of workforce development, clean energy jobs, and these are the Justice 40 priorities. And we said increasing energy democracy because you have to have awareness in terms of democracy. And we were going to build awareness. And so let me tell you a story about one of the students that we've worked with over the past year. Because Tamia, like when she started, I asked Tamia, I said, so what do you want to do when you grow up, Tamia? She said, well, I want to be an actress. But just in case it doesn't work out, I think I'll be an engineer. Right? So an engineer is her plan B. Okay? So here's some of Tamia's story in pictures. Over on the left at the top, you see where we started with just a model made out of balsa wood, right? And they were temperature testing that model. And then in the school, you can see where we were actually framing things out. And then we're putting things on the trailer. And then you can see everybody bringing it all together. And that picture of the person doing like that is actually Tamia right there. And to the right of her is in the summer, we did a summer camp, and the high school students ran the entire camp. They instructed it, everything. So what you see is their little community that they did with middle school students that they made that's solar powered, and they also learned to code in Python where they remix music. That's something I do from when I worked at Georgia Tech. So these middle school students made music in Python, remixing music samples from Alicia Keys, Jay-Z, so on, right? And then they did some circuits, and then they had lights on the community, and the lights pulsed to the beat of music, right? So they loved it. And at the bottom of there, you can see our celebration at that point back in May in terms of the greenhouse. And then the picture you see there is from a month ago, where we started putting panels on the greenhouse. And so of the 15 students we started with, because we're doing a Saturday school program, right? We lost a couple of students to, one we lost to cheerleading, the other one we lost to football, right? Right. So what can you say? So we kept 13, but out of those 13, we lost 3 more because they had like 10 seconds. 10 seconds. All right. So our original summit in the green, what we accomplished in yellow, taking more time. Our challenges and changes, why we haven't gotten done. I lost my father and my brother during this process. And we have expanded to these places, as you can see, beyond where we are. And this is an example of where we're headed in terms of full-scale solar farms in these communities. Because this is a quick picture. This is Lauren in high school in 2007, who is now on the Board of Governors, working for the Board of Governors in DC, Dr. Russell. So Dr. King asked, what do we choose, chaos or community? We choose community. Thank you all.
Could you go back to the slide with the green and yellow highlights of the plan?
Mhm.
Okay, so my question for you would be, if another community wanted to try to do something like this, where do you think would be the most important place to start, given your experience with pulling all this together?
So what I didn't get a chance to say, we've also submitted an NSF grant. So we're already going to expand to Alabama, as well as Ohio, as a part of the grant. And so we have a curriculum, and we're actually shifting it down to middle school, this project. And we're doing another similar project at the high school level, full
Is
certification.
that curriculum public, or are you working with partners and working with them directly on it?
So the curriculum is currently not public. NSF funded, it will become public.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more? Can you talk a little bit more about the success metrics and the impact that you expect to have, both when this one gets completed, as well as the places you hope to expand to in terms of number of students touched and community, available fresh produce, et cetera.
Mhm. Sure. So our trailer is an 8-foot by 24-foot trailer. So we can have anywhere from 400 to 500 grow holes in that trailer, hydroponically, which will produce, as an example, 400 to 500 heads of lettuce in a month. Okay. So from the produce standpoint, we already actually have partnered with the Atlanta Community Food Bank to do distribution. And we put it on wheels so we can take it around to the community. So literally down the street is an elementary and middle school. So we have just like they did the summer camp and they instruct there, we have a setup where we will do 25 students per hour over 3 days to do approximately 400 students in 3 days. And so we'll easily do anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 students in a year that we've actually impacted just by being on a trailer.
Yeah.
And that's just here, not the other places we want to expand to.
What supports were provided for the students who are trying to pass the exam? And like the exam fees covered, like what supports provided for those students?
So you take 2 online courses and then you take the exam. So I'm going to share my expertise, right? Back in 2009, no students had ever passed the AP Calculus BC exam at Westlake High School. Okay? In 2010, I had 10 students pass the AP Calculus BC exam. All right? And I share that with the method for doing that with the AP statistics teacher. Her pass rate went from 31% to 71% and stayed up in those numbers. So when it comes to helping people understand how to pass exams, I got the expertise.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a brief break for just about 5 minutes here. And we're going to ask the teams that just presented to please go be available at that table in the back right corner of the room, standing or sitting around there. And any audience members that want to ask them some questions, you go ahead and visit them over there. Feel free to refresh your beverages. So we'll start again in about 5 minutes. And I also wanted to flag, so after the break, I want to remind the teams that just pitched that you will have shortly thereafter video interviews in room 303. So if you double check the run of show for the timing of that and the location, if you have any questions, Lance, who's waving his hand, he can escort you over there when it's time for your interview. So yeah, we'll see everybody back in about 5 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna get started again. Okay, excellent. So I would like to welcome up Aaliyah Bell from the New Orleans Clean Energy Collective. Make sure I should actually, we're gonna get her slides up. All the way back somehow. Sorry about that. We're just doing a little refresher on the previous 2 pitches here. Over to you, yeah, and there's the, thank you.
So this is New Orleans in 2021 during Hurricane Ida. It was 16 years to the day of Hurricane Katrina, and it brought not only physical destruction, but also a painful reminder of the vulnerabilities of our community's energy systems. And so during the 15-day power outage, I was a college student with no AC, no lights, and no access to remote learning. And so the lack of reliable and sustainable energy resources compounded the hurdles already faced for students like me. And many cities remain uninformed about clean energy and have limited access to energy efficient solutions. And so the youth in disadvantaged communities are impacted by this the most. So today, I'm presenting our collective solution to increase clean energy knowledge and adopt sustainable practices through our youth. My name is Aaliyah Bell. I have a degree in political science with a minor in public administration, and I currently work for the Office of Sustainability at Xavier University. So 1 year ago, we had the idea of, by introducing clean energy to the youth in underserved communities, that we could empower them to make energy efficient decisions in their everyday. And so what's more is that we could go beyond simply providing solutions and deliver a foundation for lifelong sustainability. And so from this hypothesis, the NOLA Clean Energy Collective was created. And this was created to empower underserved communities through young people and HBCU students. And so the goal was to increase their knowledge of clean energy, strengthen engagement in their communities, and adopt sustainable practices. And so our collective is made of the Office of Sustainability from Xavier University, led by Helena Robinson, the Alliance for Affordable Energy, led by Sophie Zakin, and Hammond North Shore Jack and Jill of America, led by Sandra Joyner. And so our solution was unique in that it combined education with projects connected through our collective's partners. And so we introduced a simple yet powerful shift in the mindset in order to spark education, creativity, implementation in our students. And so we worked with about 4 different age groups from kindergarten to college. And what we noticed is that before we started our clean energy education efforts, the students knew very little about clean energy at all. And so going deeper, we found is that they were not teaching clean energy in any of the schools. And so we wanted to take that back and create a foundation and introduce clean energy to all of our age groups from kindergarten all the way to college. And so each of our groups were able to participate in a number of clean energy projects. They were able to assemble electric generated wind turbines, create solar powered cars, use solar energy to brew tea, and they were also able to create their own clean energy art to present their creative works during a gallery walk where the community was invited. So they also got that aspect of being able to engage their community in this important topic. And so this project connects 3 of our Justice 40 initiatives, number 3, 6, and 8, to overall increase clean energy tech access and adoption, job pipelines, and engagement in disadvantaged communities together. And so what we found was truly profound. We conducted intakes as well as pre and post-program surveys. And before our program began, 10% of our 80 students had no clue what clean energy was or anything of the subject at all. And we found by the end of our projects, 90% of our students were well-versed in the topic of clean energy, and even more, 94% of our high school students and college students said that they felt like a sustainability leader after this, and that they also felt comfortable and confident engaging their community in clean energy. And so the impact is definitely immeasurable. Through education, we envision a generation that can embrace and understand clean energy. And so if we can get only even a percentage of our school-age students to become more conscious and more aware about clean energy and making these decisions, they can bring these solutions back into their communities and create a ripple effect. So the opportunity that we're facing us is to expand what we started. So today's first place prize would allow us to invest in educating more students. Our goal is to further develop our curriculum so that it can be used within schools, organizations, and to educate students of all ages of sustainability and clean energy. So clean energy in disadvantaged communities is not a distant goal. You're not too old, you are not too young to embrace it, to contribute. It's a journey we can embark on now. So your support will help us solve today's problems and build a sustainable future that can be molded in other communities around the country. So together, let's sow the seeds of awareness, empower the youth, and collectively share and shape a future where sustainable choices are second nature. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Impressive presentation. Can you talk a little bit more about your work with school districts to kind of standardize the curriculum? Are you trying to get a standard curriculum for various grade levels that it can be embedded and expanded even beyond just the districts you work with so far?
Yes, and that is our goal. That is our overall goal, because as I was saying, to just give you a little more background of me, I'm from California. So I went to Xavier University and I spent the last 3 or 4 years in the community of New Orleans, and it feels like my home. But I was taught about clean energy in 2nd grade. And so that was definitely in our curriculum in the state that I'm from. And I know it's not in the curriculum in Louisiana at all. We personally went on the ground and went to high schools in the community, several, getting in, talking to counselors, and everything, and wanted to get these high schools involved to hopefully work with our organizations to expand it into these schools and let them know how significant it is for them to have a curriculum for that. So we work with STEMNOLA, which is another organization. Alliance of Affordable Energy is also working on a curriculum to bring in. And so we have organizations that have hands-on curriculums that they want to start. And so we're in hopes that we're working that into what we're trying to do as our collective, that we can further bring that into a school curriculum to educate the students in our disadvantaged communities.
As you look forward to, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what do you think could potentially be measured to know whether or not you were impactful?
I think possibly the curriculum, the knowledge, access, letting the students have the opportunity, knowing, even with the job pipelines, when we did our clean energy through art, we also gave students the opportunity to research a clean art minority. And to see that was to see the spark of passion in students' eyes. So for me, seeing that, getting to listen to these students' presentation on the art that they created, and even the research on the clean energy minority person that they researched on, I even saw in a span of how many months we put that together change. So if I visit a high school or go to a community event and I see the knowledge and the difference in these students, that for me will be an impact. You know, we talk about it being seven generations and seeing that through. Anything that one step forward is everything for our community in New Orleans.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to form the question in my head.
No problem.
So could you talk a little bit about the collective and how the collective worked together to develop your program or to develop the activities, and just a little bit more about the showcase?
Yes. And so our collective is Xavier's Office of Sustainability, Alliance for Affordable Energy, and then also Hammond North Shore Jack and Jill of America. And so with Jack and Jill, they were able to give us that product of families and really get into the community and get those students for us to advocate for the youth in that part. The Office of Sustainability brought in the youth of HBC students. And then Alliance for Affordable Energy really gave us that stakeholder in democracy because they protect consumers for energy in Louisiana and environmental aspects. And so with them, we were able to collaborate and really figure out what we needed to advocate for on all Justice 40 initiatives. And so Alliance for Affordable Energy gives the students and gives the youth the voice and let them learn of how they can advocate for clean energy and what their rights are. And Jack and Jill really gets us that reach into the community further. So it allows us to fill the huge gap that seems very dauntless, but that we're definitely ready to take on that journey.
Thank you so much.
You guys can turn around and push the button now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we are going to welcome Carolyn Bean from Missoula's Clean Energy Workforce Coalition.
Is this volume okay? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Caroline Bean, and I'm happy to be here on behalf of Missoula's Clean Energy Workforce Coalition. Our coalition is working with and for low-income women and women of color to build pathways to clean energy jobs, while also working with employers to create more gender-inclusive and caregiver-friendly workplaces. Before phase one of this prize, our coalition was little more than a hunch and a couple of partnerships. So I'm really excited to tell you about where we've been over the last year and where we can go all together. But first, some context. Missoula is a small city in a large rural area. We breathe climate change every summer when wildfire smoke fills our valleys, but we lack the workforce we need to adapt to the problem without making it worse. And at the same time, we face really serious housing and economic challenges. We are in desperate need of some good paying jobs. And that's where our coalition comes in. We're designed to sit at the intersection of all of these wicked problems and get creative and try to ensure that those who have been harmed the most historically stand to reap the benefits of all of these future investments. Which is why Mountain Home Montana has anchored our coalition from the beginning. A long-term, wraparound, two-generation care service provider. 20% of their clients are Indigenous, 80% are single parents, and 100% are at risk of houselessness. We knew that if we designed a workforce development program that worked well for a Mountain Home mom, we'd be designing a program that worked for so many more and advancing the Justice 40 initiative of expanding access to clean energy jobs. So in phase one, we set out to understand the barriers and strengthen our coalition. We quickly learned in focus groups with moms that a rigid apprenticeship program we originally envisioned wasn't going to work. And so we pivoted and we tried to create a broader multi-pathway approach, hiring a part-time coordinator to design a program that would build a pathway to jobs that hit on 3 criteria. Those that advanced the clean energy transition, offered quality livable wages, and were accessible to caregivers. Our models indicated we'd had about 1,100 job openings per year in this section. And research from other communities suggested that they could be accessible if we could provide ample support. And so we set off to try to hit that sweet spot. In phase 2, we tested solutions. We hosted pathway awareness workshops with clean energy employers in our community. We brought together partners at roundtables to talk about how we could work together. And we talked to a lot of people, just a fraction of whom are represented here. We joined the National League of Cities and traveled to DC to meet with federal agencies and build partnerships that could sustain this work for the long term. And at the end of all of it, we had held 5 pathway awareness workshops with 40 participants. 67% of participants were interested in hearing more. And mind you, almost 80% had never heard of a clean energy job before they attended. We hosted over 64 partner conversations, doubled our core coalition, and are actively pursuing 5 funding opportunities. But more than the numbers, we have learned that this work is hard, only possible with a committed and excellent team, and that if we wanted to go far, we had to go slow, which is why in phase 3, we're proposing a pre-apprenticeship program with the Tradeswomen Alliance to mentor and advise the program, custom curriculum geared for the clean energy trades, along with soft skills training and stipends for childcare and transportation. We plan to launch all women cohorts and have a council of employers ready to provide opportunities to our graduates. But we can't get here without you all and your support. We estimate we need about $200,000 to run our first 2 cohorts, and we're only part of the way there. But we can get there and we can unlock future funding through the Inflation Reduction Act with funding today. And so before I leave you, I want to imagine the future that our coalition is working so hard for. It's 5 years from now. The work you've heard about today is shining a light for Montana and the entire Intermountain West. Dozens of women have come through our program and gotten their start in the trades. When a woman in our community is looking to find her footing, she knows she can come here to get a start. And when she graduates from our program and is placed with an employer, every day when she goes to work, she knows that she's making a difference, not just for her family, but for our entire community. We are committed to this future 5 years from now and beyond, and I hope you all are too. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Could you talk a little bit about why you're focused on women?
Yes. So when we looked at the Justice 40 or the disadvantaged communities map of our community, we saw that there was a disproportionate rate of single parents, often single moms within those communities. And then we had this very strong relationship with Mountain Home Montana that offered wraparound care specifically for young moms. And so that felt like a place to start. We are actually already starting to take calls and partnerships from other organizations that work with our refugee resettlement program to expand beyond women as well. But that was a start for why we were there.
So you talked at the beginning about the wildfires, and now you're theoretically, training women in these clean energy technologies. What are we training them to do, and how is that going to help with wildfire or other issues?
Sure. So one of the main strategies we can take to prepare for wildfire smoke is to invest in energy efficiency and electrification of our homes. Most homes in Missoula don't have air conditioning, and so when it's smoky and hot at the same time, you're presented with this devil's choice of, am I going to open my windows and cool off and then have to breathe smoky air, or am I going to try and keep the smoky air out and be hot in my house? And so when we can make our homes more efficient, install heat pumps to allow for cooling while also lowering energy bills, it has an air quality impact and resiliency piece, but also a mitigation piece with energy efficiency. And they'll be trained to do that type of work, but we're also working on solar installation as well. The broad pathways covers building science, solar, energy auditing, energy efficiency are sort of our focus areas.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the size of the cohorts that are going through and how you came up with the funding amounts? That we all know childcare is really expensive, and how you came up with the funding that you need to get each cohort through and to get to your 5-year goal?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're hoping to graduate 10 people per cohort, but more would join. We plan for some attrition. In terms of how we came to that number was through research with other programs across the country that are doing similar things, maybe not in clean energy, but trying to train women in this similar wraparound care. And that was a conservative estimate that was given to us. I think there might be some efficiencies later on as we refine the curriculum and everything, but that's where we started.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent. Well, we're going to take another quick break now. And so we will ask Aaliyah and Carolyn to be at that table or somewhere near that table in the back right. So if you have any questions for those teams, you can go and network with them there. And then I know earlier we were cut a little bit short with Duran and Douglas. So, if they want to be somewhere in that area as well. And we're going to come back in about 10 minutes. So at about 11:42 a.m. So plan on that. Thank you. And so I would just want to remind Aaliyah and Carolyn to do your video interviews and find Lance if you need any assistance. So excellent. Well, now it's my pleasure to welcome Henry Golat, who is with the HBCU Community Development Action Coalition. So Henry, over to you.
Advance.
This way is forward and back.
Good. All right, good morning. Henry Golat, HBCU Community Development Action Coalition. A little bit of information about what we call the HBCU Greentown Project. The HBCU Greentown Project represents a diverse team of academicians, community practitioners, and private sector partners. Oh. I'm advancing, but not advancing. Clicker's not advancing, it's advancing on the screen. Oh, is it? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, the HBCU Greentown Project, as I said, represent a diverse team. The Greentown Project is led by the HBCU Community Development Action Coalition, serving as equity champions. And CDAC, for those who do not know, is a national nonprofit intermediary that was founded in 2010. When we think about the work that we're doing, we've assembled a team of participating HBCUs, including Claflin University, of course, South Carolina State University. We've also partnered with Dillard University in New Orleans, and then last but not least, Denmark Technical College in Denmark, South Carolina, with the goal of creating renewable energy pathways and futures for our students, as well as for residents of neighboring HBCU communities. In envisioning the work that would be conducted under the Greentown Project and formulating our coalition, we wanted to first expand and build awareness of the work we were already doing in the sector through existing relationships. CDAC already partners with organizations such as the National Association of State Energy Officials. We heard a little bit about them on yesterday, as well as we have a relationship with DOE. As such, we were already engaged with clean energy contacts at the federal and the state level. Likewise, we had relationships with higher education and within the higher education at the community level. These relationships allowed us to form our coalition quickly and efficiently, focusing first on formalizing individual partnerships with each of those representative stakeholder groups. To that end, we executed MOUs, memorandums of understanding, between CDAC and our partners, both at the public level, and then again, you'll hear about that at the private sector level as well. In our work, what we were able to do pretty quickly was stand up these partnerships and relationships, and they included, as I said, both public sector partners as well as private sector partners, with the goal of being able to expand very rapidly into communities. Unlike some of the others that we've heard from today, I'll note that CDAC is actually servicing institutions across multi-states. And so in that regard, we are in South Carolina, as well as in New Orleans and Louisiana. And so that is by itself a little bit of a challenge, but yet it's something that we were doing. In the middle of what you see on the screen here now is a very important partnership at the private sector level. We were successful through this opportunity, through the challenge grant, to present ourselves and be found, so to speak, by a company called Smartville Inc., which is out of California. They saw the announcement of us in the first two iterations of the prize competition. They themselves were getting ready to submit an application to DOE and thought that the work that we were doing overlaid very nicely with what they had intended to do. And their work was centered around, I'll say this real briefly, their work was centered around taking proprietary techniques to use and reuse batteries from vehicles, electric vehicles, and give them a second life. And so in this configuration, and with these institutions, we were able to stand up a relationship with Smartville that would deliver long-range battery duration storage as a part of the work we're doing. And so CDAC and these partnering organizations going to be delivering smart infrastructure in the way of smart flowers and things of that nature. But to add that battery storage capacity would tremendously impact the resiliency of these campuses and in the work. I'll also say in this configuration, what you see here is small and minority enterprise in creative innovative design company, which is one of our contractors with the Smart Flower, who is actually on board with us in terms of teaching as we move out into the various communities, how to not only install these apparatuses and appliances, but also how to maintain them. So there's a workforce development, there's awareness around clean energy that is very front and center. And the apparatus itself, the Smart Flower, is a very architectural piece of appliance. And so it will by nature draw STEM related students, the community and people of that nature to the deployments in the various communities. And then I'll say again, Bright Energy Innovators are working with us around minority business pipelines. So we're not only doing workforce development, we're not only doing deployments in terms of energy justice, we are also looking at training would-be entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs and emerging entrepreneurs in regards to the work as well. So I'll finish up by saying one of the things we want to leave with the HBCU community is a framework and a stage of processes that we would go through. 5 steps. We've already done some of the convenings and things of that nature, inclusive of best practices that would be articulated in a research project, participatory research project that would be housed and held in regards to some of the HBCU campuses. And lastly, I'll say that we've stood up this framework that we think is a scalable model and will be part of a playbook that can be left behind as well. So others who are following in our path can easily take that and run with it.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Can you talk a little bit about, as someone tries to use this framework, what challenges do you think they're going to reach first?
First of all, you see at the top of the matrix there is communication with senior level leadership at the HBCU. It's so important that you get buy-in early and often, and then drill down from the buy-in from the CEO and the leadership there into the perfunctory roles on a campus. So the deans, the directors, the project managers, and people of that nature. So you have to get that buy-in and let it come from the top down in that regard. That's always a challenge because HBCU presidents are not unlike anyone else. They have a full slate of things that they're doing as well.
Understood.
So for the schools that are part of the collaborative, how did you approach this? Like, how are the schools that are part of the coalition selected, and what's the plan for engaging other HBCUs?
Yeah, so in terms of, I think I heard your question, how were they selected? Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of selection, it should be noted, for instance, when you look at South Carolina State and Claflin University, we are also doing a place-based real estate development project currently as we speak there on the campus. So it was a no-brainer. It's a $35 million mixed-use development. It gives us an opportunity to offload some of the technology. The other thing is CDAC has MOUs with probably 30, 40 HBCUs and growing. And so our MOUs allow us to quickly get in, start those relationships. And again, because of the transportation aspect of the work, the fact that we were already on campus, the fact in Dillard's case, there's this certainly climate issue regarding the city itself. And so it made it really attractive. It was the farthest out, but it made it attractive for us to move in that direction. I should also say, in my work in higher education, I spent 25 years on an HBCU campus, so I've got pretty good, deep connections with HBCU people and officials, so it's not hard to find relationships. What we wanted to do, though, however, was make sure we had something meaningful that we could build on, and that there was passion and commitment from the institutions that they would be interested in taking this work forward.
Great, thank you. This is a pretty comprehensive approach here. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your metrics, like a year from now or 5 years from now. You talked about training, you talked about the solar flower, deploying that, and battery storage. How do you kind of defining success and what metrics and using this funding versus funding from other sources and other partnerships that you've had?
Yeah, so I should say again that this funding has allowed us, and being able to move through the various phases has allowed us to really attract private sector interest in capital. So part of what we've done, we've applied for the Solar for All grant, which is pretty huge and humongous. It'll also help us to provide some access to training and things of that nature if that is successful in that regard. We are partnered with organizations like Wells Fargo, and of course, Wells Fargo, we are a member of the Channel Partner program with NRail. So it gives us a lot of throughput to allow for us to train the students. We have a benchmark of 50 students in the first cohort, so we tried to train 50 students this first cohort. We've held a couple of those roundtable kind of conversations with our stakeholders to let them know, what roles, and also to allow them to bring forward partners that they might have. They might already have a partnership, like for instance here in New Orleans with Energy, and so we want to make sure we're utilizing those relationships in that regard. But basically, have a goal around 50 students in the first cohort, and we think that is more or less a semester basis. We are very conservative in that regard. 50 students among 4 HBCUs, that's not going to be hard to make at all, but being conservative in that regard is what we were shooting for.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Great. And next we have Jessica Rodriguez from the Asosacion de Residentes de la Margarita.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Rodriguez from la Asociación de Residentes La Margarita, and I'm going to present about our project, Energy Modernization for Equity via Renewables. Our community is located at Salinas, Puerto Rico. Here, you can see a map of our community that has over 300 houses, a medical center, and an industrial park. Our community is identified as a disadvantaged community due to low income and projected flood risk. La Margarita was built back in the 70s. For that reason, many of our residents are senior citizens that come from low and middle income households and has medical conditions. La Margarita faces many threats, one of them being recurring flooding events, hurricanes, and power outages. To face these challenges, we as a community wanted to empower our community to become a resilient one. For that reason, we took the challenge of the Community Clean Energy Connection Prize. Since phase 1, we started to recruiting coalition members. Here you can see us as a certified as an energy cooperative, Aveino Co, and also with the mayor of Salinas, one of our first coalition members. Now in phase 3, we have increased our coalition member size, and here you can see some of our partners, such as Fundación Comunitaria de Puerto Rico, Cooperativa Hidroeléctrica de las Montañas, and others shown here. The mission of our coalition is to provide renewable and resilient energy system for eligible homes in our disadvantaged community. How we are going to do that? Well, at the beginning, we had 3 SMART goals. The first one being we wanted to install one photovoltaic system with storage in our community center during the first year. Second, we wanted to install rooftop PV system with storage in 50 houses during the first 2 years, and this system will be net metering. And the third goal was to increase the number of houses with access to on-site renewable electricity generation capacity from 10% to 30% during 2 years. These goals align with the Justice 40 initiative of 1, decreasing energy burden, and 2, increasing energy resilience in disadvantaged communities such as La Margarita. Here are some of our achievements. From small goal, we have installed a photovoltaic system with storage in our community center. Here you can see a picture of our resilient hub. From small goal 2, we begin with a pilot plan of installing 5 PV systems with storage. And we have completed successfully this plan, and we are currently installing 2 more systems. With the 7th system, we will produce 30,000 clean energy with less carbon dioxide emission. Also, we have shared knowledge with other communities in Puerto Rico through different workshops and local meetings. One of our achievements is that we have decreased the energy bill. Here you can see a bill prior installation, and now you can see the bill after the installation. We have decreased almost a 90% reduction in energy costs. Now, in our current projects, we want in the future to create a smart microgrid plan with local international partners, such as Solar United and EarthSpark. La Margarita has been selected to enter negotiation to receive funding from the Puerto Rico Energy Resilience Funds. And these funds will be to target low-income households and people that receive food stamps. For the future, we want to continue to submit funding to install systems to the rest of the community. In addition, we want to create a smart microgrid plan and thus creating a solar industrial park in Salinas. Big transformation can start with small beginning. That is why we need your help to finish this project. Thank you.
Great presentation, thank you. Can you talk a little about your relationship with the local utility and how you partnered with them and how they feel about the microgrid project and how that's going to be the kind of business aspects of that?
Okay, you mean with the local utility from electricity in Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Well, we had one meeting, and at first they were a little bit skeptical because, I mean, this project will mean that we will produce our own energy in the community. So that is a disadvantage for them. But nevertheless, they agree to continue to another meeting, but we need the approval of the Energy Bureau of Puerto Rico. So, I mean, it's a change, but they are agreeing to meet with us and continue to get the agreement.
So that's one potential partner that might not be so excited about what you're doing. Did you find others in the community were maybe not as positive about it? Did you find any resistance in the community?
No, all of our community, they are excited and they want to be next. We started with 5 people, but now in our energy cooperative, we have 54 members that want their system installed. So they are, weekly. In my case, I live in San Juan. I face power outages once a week. So that is horrible. So these people need medical equipment and need, I mentioned that in our community, the flood, we have constantly flood, so we need light when this happens because it almost happened during the night. So it's important to have this system installed. But they are really happy and they want to be next.
Do you have an idea of how long and how much funding you would need to achieve all of your ultimate vision for your community?
Yes, for these 7 systems, it costs us approximately $23,000 per system. So if we want to achieve 50 houses, we will need $1.5 million. I know that sounds a lot, but thanks to the DOE and President Biden in Puerto Rico, they want to move to clean energy by in 27 years, 1%. So with all this funding, we can help achieve this goal.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. And so before we go to lunch, a couple of announcements and one more surprise element of our programming. But just want to remind folks that, so we're going to have a brief break in a few minutes, and we'll ask for Jessica and Henry to be at that table in the back right corner, so audience members can network with them and ask questions. And it may take about 15 minutes or so for Chef Mark's team to set up the catering, and then as soon as the lunch is available, we can start there. We are going to restart back here promptly at 1:45. So you have a very long, nice break for networking. I also want to remind Henry, your interview is at 1:45 and Jessica at 2. And so find Lance if you need any assistance with that. But before we go to the lunch, we are thrilled to have a video greeting for Mayor Dickens from the city of Atlanta, not on our written program, so a surprise element for some of you. And let's hear from the mayor.
This is Mayor Dickens, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to Atlanta for the Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize Summit. This is a celebration of the great work taking place to create a diverse, inclusive, and accessible clean energy economy in communities across the United States. Congratulations to the 10 winning teams of the American-made Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize. Thank you for your tireless efforts to address local clean energy challenges nationwide. Clean energy is the key to a brighter, healthier future. That's why the Mayor's Office of Sustainability and Resilience works citywide to create environmentally responsible initiatives, along with our local and regional partners. Thank you to the United States Department of Energy and the Clean Energy Business Network for presenting this summit. I'd also like to thank the Atlanta University Center for hosting this event and showcasing the work of our remarkable HBCUs. Thank you all for your instrumental roles in helping us create a city built for the future.
All right, thank you, everybody, and we'll resume at 1:45. All right, we're going to get started again. If everyone can please take your seats. Excellent. All right, welcome back. I hope everybody had a good lunch. And now we're ready to continue with our pitches, and we're going to hear from Freddie Stevens with the Rebuild ATL Coalition. Welcome, Freddie.
The Rebuild ATL Coalition has the power. Together, we have the power and collective energy, clean energy, of course, to serve the most disadvantaged communities and the most vulnerable populations and residents in the city of Atlanta's West Side. We are connected to over 40 coalition network partners committed to empowering disadvantaged communities in West Atlanta. Led by 4 community-based organizations, and through their individual business, we're able to create a deconstruction workforce training program called Breaking Barriers, which is our first step. While grounded in deconstruction and reuse, our mission is to develop an asset-based model for addressing unemployment and developing clean energy solutions. Inherent in our workforce development program is decarbonization and circularity. And essentially that means that we're taking deconstructing materials from the built environment and repurposing those materials back into the built environment industry. Meaning, when we talk about affordable housing redevelopment and rehab, when we're talking about home repair and owner-occupied rehab for homeowners and energy efficiency retrofits, we're able to utilize those materials back into the environment and keep them out of landfills. To understand who we are as a coalition, one must understand our values because our values energize our work. Scale, community impact, local history, local assets, and local knowledge, network, and organizational impact. We are accountable to each other for the work. The work has helped us realize new synergies and a mission to resolve some of the big issues facing the disadvantaged in Atlanta, particularly in communities of color. Atlanta has similar challenges to other major cities as it relates to access and opportunity for the disadvantaged. However, in Atlanta's West Side, income disparity, levels of poverty, and energy burdens are disproportionately high. West Side owner-occupied homes are 70 years old and suffer from high energy cost, equity theft, and extensive deferred maintenance. Because we truly understand the lack of access and opportunity for West Side residents, Rebuild ATL's work directly aligns with Justice 40 and is represented in the Justice 40 objectives listed. Coalition members participate in leadership in Atlanta Clean Energy's Advisory Board and the city's new Weatherize program, which represents our commitment to clean energy. We have made great progress, but still some of the most difficult work remains ahead. Phase 1 and 2 of the DOE Prize has allowed us to develop a stronger path of communication and structure for a coalition, but has also allowed us to deploy new projects and new workshops. We have established the groundwork to further execute our SMART goals and expand our reach and outcomes. New funding will allow Rebuild ATL to perfect and scale our deconstruction workforce training program to 50 trainees per year through 2026, intended to lead to livable wage jobs in high growth construction and energy sectors. From energy education to energy efficiency projects along the continuum, we intend to improve the durability, health, and values of homes on the West Side. We've had the opportunity to use our construction training program to take individuals like Simone Danielle, who now works and is employed by Life Cycle Building Center, one of our coalition partners. We've used the work in our training and our education to help individuals like Ms. Johnson in Grove Park, where she's been introduced into the portal of energy education and has a prospect of becoming a recipient of solar on her home. Both their participation and success lets us know that the work that we're doing is right and just for these communities. Advancing towards SMART goals success will lead to more community outcomes like Simone Danielle and Ms. Johnson. Through our coalition and coordinated work, we have realized that no one of us is smart as all of us together. And our goals over the next 12 months will dictate how successful we are. And together, Rebuilding ATL will help the West Atlanta and other Metro Atlanta disadvantaged LMI communities enter the portal of energy access and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One of the questions I would have about your great presentation is, you're talking about what's happening over the next year. How much of that is already funded and how much of that are you still looking for additional funding? And are you looking for additional partners to contribute? That kind of thing.
There's never enough funding in this.
There's never enough funding.
So
Amen.
We'll start there. Our efforts have been centered around the deconstruction training program because the core of our work, again, as we talked about decarbonization and circularity, is, and that work is led by one of our core partners. And the uniqueness of our organization is that we have multiple skill sets in different industries. My history is development of affordable housing and that work. So to answer your question, just in the affordable housing space, this space is never enough resource. But for the job training, the goal is to do 102 cohorts this year. So we're still seeking funding for that, roughly about $5,000 per student. And our success in our first cohort led us to understanding how successful we can be and address some of the challenges which the DOE prize has helped us do. But then also the other part is the work around the energy efficiency, weatherization, and retrofits. And we hope to, through our partnership, be able to support that effort to the residents that live in the communities that we serve.
Could you just expand a little bit about your partnership? How formal is it? Do you have MOUs or have you created a new organization? Can you talk a little bit about the coalition building?
Yes, great question. So our coalition partners, the core coalition partners, if I was to go back to that slide, are in the center of the box there. So two community-based organizations in Westside Watershed Alliance and Grove Park Foundation. We've got some technical support there. We have academic partners, and we have training entities in the box as well. So we utilize the resources from that that partnership to do the work that we do, and to use the skills and the involvement that they have and that we have collectively in other areas to do the work that we've proposed for the communities that we serve, as well as the construction program. Did I answer your question, or what part of that?
I guess, like, through what mechanism?
Oh, in terms of structure. So our focus in the DOE prize is really just that. We created an MOU for the Breaking Barriers project, but the DOE process allows us to expand our interaction, to coalesce all of the skills and the talents that we have. This work is hard work. You know, we talk about the product itself, but the challenge is the people in the neighborhoods and deploying these resources necessary to have people, accept and engage. So the community partners that we have allows us to seamlessly enter the West Side neighborhoods because relationships already exist. So with that being said, it's been a seamless interaction and engagement with the coalition partners. We've hired a consultant to help us expand the structure because we're all working in our own organizations to be successful. But this coalition creates another effort that we don't have the capacity to do. So to your point, yes, it is difficult, but working collectively together, we should be able to solve the issues that we want to with additional funding.
Great, thank you. Great presentation. And you focused on the job training aspect, but you also talked in the application a bit more about installations and reuse of materials. Can you expand on that a little bit and where you stand and what your goals are for the installation and use of repurposed materials?
Yes. So LBC, the Life Cycle Building Center, is our repurpose, reuse entity. So our goals is to take this embodied carbon product that we deconstructed from homes. And so inherent in our work, again, is energy itself and the efforts around this environmental justice and Justice 40. Taking those materials and repurposing them and impacting the communities that we serve, both from an economic, social, and environmental standpoint. The circularity we talk about is, which is taking those materials, and when we talk about weatherizations and energy efficient retrofits, using those same materials, which reduces the cost, but allows us to also hire individuals from these communities and be able to have those individuals through the training, first deconstruction, potentially weatherization and energy efficient retrofits, to do the actual work in the communities that they live in and the people that they serve. So it is a cycle that we hope to as we created it, to make it successful. And even when it comes down to affordable housing development and the rehab and owner-occupied rehabs, we hope to be able to use those resources and the individuals trained to do that work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, terrific. And now we're going to hear from Kashif Weiser from the Dream Entrepreneurs Network.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kashif Wizard. I'm the National Director of Dream.org's Tech and Innovation Program. We close prison doors and open doors of opportunity into the green economy. Communities of color are most burdened by pollution. IRA and the Justice 40 Initiative provide an unprecedented opportunity to transform these communities to both be health and resiliency hubs. There's certainly going to be barriers to an equitable transition along the way. One is pipeline of Black and brown tech entrepreneurs. At Dream.org, we have a saying, those closest to the problem have the best solutions. Why? They know the community and they understand the customer. Two, access to funding to stand up infrastructure projects. If you were here yesterday, Dr. Reginald Parker gave a stat about 0.54% of philanthropy dollars being deployed to founders of color in the state of Georgia in 2021. And then third, community engagement. If we don't bring these communities along the way as we're ideating and standing up solutions, we're going to negatively impact trust and climate solution adoption. So, complex challenges require complex solutions, hence our multifaceted approach. This is why we centered our project around building a network of the best and brightest Black and brown climate tech founders ready to pave the way forward to a more inclusive and green economy. Lived experience is a superpower, and it's our network's competitive advantage. I introduce to you the Dream Entrepreneurs Network, formerly known as the Green for All Business Council. As you can see, some of the benefits there, which include grant writing support, fundraising opportunities, Justice 40 community engagement, and more. I also highlight two of our founders in network. You heard Dr. Reginald Parker speak yesterday, 25 years of experience on the cutting edge of solar technology. Dr. Anthony Kinslow, who is a leader in equitable energy efficiency deployment and works nationwide. With the awarded funds, the Dream Entrepreneurs Network partnered with 6 Justice 40 organizations, Justice 40 communities across the country, and you can see those listed there. The DEN, as we refer to it internally, will work with relevant stakeholders to solve energy challenges with projects on clean energy, energy efficiency, clean transit, and workforce development. As the DEN grows, Dream.org will ensure that we sustain those relationships in the communities. The progress we've made through 3 phases, and with the award of these dollars, this is our progress against our SMART goals. We've increased the size of our network from 7 to 28 as of today. We stood up a newsletter which uplifts funding opportunities sourced from a proprietary grant tracker that we've created. And also we provide updates on opportunities in the Justice 40 communities that we're building technical assistance in. Third, we've diversified our funding, our partnerships, which include public and private funding, where we stood up partnerships with Wells Fargo and other orgs, where we've leveraged those fundings to launch an accelerator for 10 of our climate tech businesses, and we've also brought on a grant writer. We've hosted 4 out of our targeted 5 listening sessions in 4 different communities, and we've also elevated 3 project opportunities in 3 of those communities as well. One exciting opportunity that I want to make and give an update on is that in partnership, Dream.org, our grant writer, and one of our then members, Dexter Turner of OpConnect, we're on the cusp of an unprecedented $250 million loan through the DOE's Loan Program Office to accelerate the transition of vehicle electrification in Savannah, Georgia. This win in progress personifies ROI for the award and inspires confidence in the coalition that we have a replicable process and formula to scale across Justice 40 communities. One key learning and adjustment we made through 3 phases is that we scaled back from 10 communities. So we did start off with 10 communities, but through listening sessions, we've decided to focus on 6 communities moving forward because 6 communities were more project ready, and we built stronger and deeper relationships in 6 out of those 10. Engagement with those communities and subsequent, again, listening sessions informed that decision. 3 conclusions: financial resources are needed to reduce barriers to these founders. Technical assistance, readiness training, contracted services, including grant writers, are especially resources needed for both our founders and these communities, these Justice 40 communities. And 3, community engagement and network connections are essential. Activities to sustain and strengthen the coalition include targeted outreach to sustain the network and prioritize companies brought in based on funding opportunities, applying to funding opportunities, both government and philanthropic, and then acting as advocates to promote and provide technical assistance to our founders and our communities. In closing, we ask that you reinvest into the coalition. Dr. Parker shared a story yesterday about his challenging upbringing in Savannah, Georgia. What he didn't share with you was that his childhood experience of being photographed and an insatiable curiosity to figure out why his beautiful Black skin didn't show up in that photo actually led to one of the first solar technologies that he created. A leader and a founder like him, purposely driven to save the planet and uplift communities of color, is the subcontractor, one of the subcontractors on that Savannah project that I just uplifted. So that progress was made possible through your funding. Thank you.
You have a huge coalition, right? You've grown by 400%.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize with so many members of the coalition, and how do you choose projects?
Yeah, great question. Twofold. It really starts with the Justice 40 communities, right? So as mentioned, it's imperative that we build relationships on the ground in those communities, create space for them to uplift challenges, needs, project opportunities in those communities. Based on those needs, we're doing targeted outreach into our networks to attract founders of color who have solutions, both to support those ideas, but also there's the work of aligning projects with funding opportunities coming down as well. So by bringing on a contract writer, for example, to support the network, we're able to triangulate, for lack of better words, and prioritize projects based on the needs in those communities.
Thank you, great presentation. Can you expand, you mentioned 3 projects that were uplifted or ready. Can you talk about what type of projects they are? Are they building retrofits for efficiency? Are they new solar installations? The size and scale of them, and who might be implementing among your network to make those projects a reality?
Yeah. So I can speak to 3 projects. So one was in Fresno, California, and through a listening session early in the year with both state representatives, CBOs, and entrepreneurs, clean transit and connectivity in the downtown Fresno area was uplifted, an EV accelerator to develop a workforce in EVs as well. And then Detroit, Michigan, a solar project specifically leveraging local brownfields was identified. And then in Savannah, Georgia, as I mentioned, we have the EV charging infrastructure project. And I want to highlight again, and this is what's amazing about the network, is the deal flow and partnership opportunity amongst the founders. Whereas there's a primary on that loan application, and then 4 other businesses that are within the network that are subcontractors as well.
One of the things that we think about at DOE is how do we bring everybody along, right? And you mentioned, so I want to probe a little bit. You mentioned you started with 10, and after doing workshops, you ended up with 6.
Yeah.
What do you think, because they were more shovel ready, what do you think those 4 that were not included would need as a next step?
Yeah, so we've actually, and this is through additional funding, another,
Of course.
right? But we've actually brought on a partner called HR&A, and they support our communities on the ground identifying shovel-ready projects, right? So more in regards to technical readiness, every community is different, right? So this is part of the reason why we've brought on additional contracted support to help assess which ones are more shovel ready. But at the end of the day, it does come down to external support, contracted services, and that's what we do. We stand in the gaps for both the communities and our entrepreneurs and network, and we support and provide them those resources. So I think it just comes down to technical readiness, and every community is at a different place.
Thank you so much.
All right, terrific. So we are going to take a quick break now, and then we'll return at 2:20. So we've got about 7 minutes. So we're going to ask Fred and Kashif to be in that table in the back corner of the room if you want to network with them, ask them some questions, and then we'll resume at 2:20. All right, so I'd like to ask everyone to come and be seated again. And we're going to welcome up Lorraine Horton from Team Philly.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lorraine Horton, and I'm the Director of Community Programs at the Energy Coordinating Agency, better known as ECA. And I'd also like to mention my Team Philly, ECA, the Philadelphia Energy Authority, Solar Stewards, and the Environmental Collaboratory, and Hunting Park NEC. And to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the things that we do at ECA, we have the Green Jobs Training Center, community programs, the Heater Hotline program, the Weatherization program, Built to Last, and the Neighborhood Energy Centers. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. What is a neighborhood energy center? ECA started with 4 neighborhood energy centers in 1985, and we were trying to increase the application intake for the LIHEAP crisis program to reduce the energy burden due to the rising cost of natural gas. And so that way we could help people and prevent them from having utility shutoffs. And after the first year, we upped that increase to 33% for the applications for the LIHEAP crisis program. Today, we have 16 wonderful, amazing neighborhood energy centers. They are a unique network of a one-stop shop, building capacity, resilience within the Justice 40 community, and addressing the whole person and whole homes. They are the bridge between the community, utility companies, and all the resources that's available for low to moderate income families. We're offering energy services, education, conservation, budget counseling, wraparound services to access water, food, housing, and energy application. The challenge of a changing neighborhood is happening all over the country. As the city gentrifies, poverty isn't being solved, it's just merely being pushed outward. Many displaced people in the community are moving to the northeast section of Philadelphia. There are more than 80,000 people aged 60 and above living in the northeast section, and 13% were in poverty in 2018, and that's up from 9% from 2010. Around 27% of all Philadelphians aged 60 and above live in the Northeast, and that's the highest single concentration of older individuals that's in that single neighborhood. Our CCEC prize, we've already started our outreach and communities. 200 community members reached through our energy fairs, outreach events. 100 of those families was avoided termination, and a 10 times increased homebound services for our senior citizens. Our vision is a mobile energy center. This mobile energy center will tie into community resource fairs that will give people opportunities to talk to utility companies, to healthcare providers, and other resources that can help them with their homes. We have a do-it-yourself conservation workshop. We're demonstrating how to lower costs in energy in people's homes by using simple tips and inexpensive products. But this year, we're going to take a different approach. We're going to include the children. We're going to have educational materials for children to understand how energy works in their homes. And after their workshop, they will receive a certificate, which will be making them the ambassador of energy in their homes. So they'll pretty much be the energy police for their families. We also provide solar and electrification workshops, engaging communities in conversation about solar and Inflation Reduction Act rebates. Tangled titles, that's a big problem in our communities as well. Families not being able to get access to these programs because they don't have ownership of their properties. Our NECs have actually made connections with community legal services, and we're going to be bringing those services into our neighborhood energy centers. Together, Team Philly will bring utility terminations in our city from 30,000 to 0. Some people were asking us, well, is this like a food truck? It's not a food truck. It's not selling water ice. It's not selling hot dogs. We are mobilizing energy resources. And I thank you so much for this time.
Thanks for that great presentation. When you say you're going to bring from 30,000 down to zero, what's your timeline for that?
Well, we're hoping to do it. It won't happen in 1 year.
No.
But yeah,
Right.
but hopefully that's like a 5-year goal, is to be able to, reach more people. We're just coming into this community.
Do you feel when you get from 30,000 to zero, do you anticipate it snowballing? Like the first year there'll be a few, and then the next year there'll be a lot more. Or do you think it's going to be linear? You're going to address.
I believe it's going to get a lot more. This is a very diverse community up there. So that's one of our challenges as well. The Russian speaking, the Spanish, the Chinese. And so we want to work all this out, but it will take, overall, but that's our goal.
Do you think with all these different communities up there, are you continuing to add partners then too, who can speak to some of those different communities?
Our neighborhood energy centers, this mobile unit is actually a connection to all 16 neighborhood energy centers. Once we get applications and people come in and they want to meet with us, they make an appointment with this vehicle. And what we do is we source it out to the neighborhood energy centers that provides the needs that they want, because they're a one-stop shop, but they all offer something different. So they'll be able to, if they go to one neighborhood energy center, if that's not what they need, we source it to the next one.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about where you are today with the mobile energy center?
We're working on the mobile energy center and getting it staffed. We're getting it staffed. We're going to be opened on Saturdays. We're going to be actually hopefully serving at least 1,500 families within that time.
Great, thank you. Just building on those questions, so the current energy centers are staffed and funded through the city?
Through the city, Division of Housing and Community Development.
So, and is this prize going to give you starter funds that you'll ultimately get the city to fund the mobile center as well?
Exactly. As much funding as we can get. We want it to be continued, not a Band-Aid, but a solution.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And now we have Roy Soa from WECU, also known as Positive Energy Coalition.
You guys hear me on here? Hello? Does that sound all right? Okay. How's everybody doing today? Good. I know this is not much, but this is Energy Summit, so I need to have a little bit more energy for that. How's everybody doing? All right. Great. Well, I'm Roy Soa, the founder and CEO of WECU and Positive Energy Coalition. And this is how we're going to raise low-income, minority, and rural communities out of generational poverty at scale by installing 1 terawatt of sustainable distributed energy resource management systems, or DERMS for short, in Oklahoma by 2045. WECU is the Cartagena Type 1 deep tech energy innovation company based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're creating a service for homeowners to have access to unlimited electricity for $50 a month by turning environmental, social, and governance, ESG, into an asset class to help organizations with ESG goals properly achieve those targets. We're currently focused on solar and battery energy. We create portfolios of projects in underrepresented communities to reduce energy burdens, make the grid more resilient, and give community members opportunities to be the ones to receive jobs in their own backyards. You see, when we first went into the Community Clean Energy Coalition Prize, we were in the process of creating our nonprofit, the Positive Energy Family Foundation, to allocate our own profits into community development and empowerment. So we knew this would be the perfect opportunity for us to showcase our vision to impact Black and Brown, tribal, and rural communities at scale, starting in North Tulsa. So we formed the Positive Energy Coalition. But to us, this is not just a coalition. It's our business model. North Tulsa is home to Black Wall Street and the Greenwood District, and it's now my home. This community has a rich history of entrepreneurship and innovation, but that was all taken away from them by force with the Tulsa Race Massacre in 1929. This is a brilliant, hardworking community who has been asking, begging, and demanding for opportunities to raise themselves out of their oppression, and who are sick and tired of empty promises and rich companies taking economic development RFP contracts away. This is the reality not just for North Tulsa, but every single underrepresented community out there. I mean, that's why we're all here. So, when we first won the prize, our initial goal was to sign up 500 North Tulsa homeowners onto our unlimited electricity waitlist, to create a free online classroom and training program to train 45 community members to become solar technicians, to install 10 North Tulsa houses, solar and batteries, to reduce their electric expenses by $6,000 a year, and to grow our coalition of over 30 members. But as we engaged more with the community and other local organizations, we modified our target milestones because 80% of North Tulsa households are renters. More coalition members isn't what we needed to impact this community, and a training program without any jobs lined up would have been a great disservice to these community members who commit themselves to developing these skills. Instead, we constructed a portfolio of 10 megawatts of community solar projects for the Tulsa Dream Center, 2 Section 8 apartment complexes, a small rural cooperative, and 59 surrounding houses. We've engineered all of the construction plan sets for these projects. We've pre-inspected 11 houses. We installed on 2, and we developed partnerships with many Oklahoma workforce development organizations to piggyback off of their resources, to have an effective network to reach our targeted communities and administer our program. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We've taken that first step, but now we need funding for our portfolio projects in our company to take several more strides towards our goal. Over the next 5 years, we plan to install 100 megawatts of our solar and battery farms within our initial service area of Tulsa through Oklahoma City. We'll need to train over 600 new employees to become engineers, inspectors, technicians, electricians, project managers, and other supporting roles. We have ambitious goals for ambitious impact, but we can't do it alone. That's why we're focusing on raising capital from partners who share our vision of creating innovative solutions for people, profit, and planet. We need your help, and I surely hope that you'll join us on this journey of rebuilding Black Wall Street and other underrepresented communities in the United States. Thank you.
Thanks for that presentation. That's really fascinating. Can you talk a little bit, have you engaged with the utilities at all?
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we have. So with the utilities, we've talked with pretty much all the major utilities in Oklahoma, as well as some cooperatives. And utilities have the same thing at the end of the day. They want to increase their energy generation capacity. But if for a small rural cooperative that's tied to a power pool, like the Southwest Power Pool here for the Midwest, there's a lot of things that they can't do because they're just regulated by the entity. So we've been developing partnerships with them to find ways to add more solar capacity, but keep them within regulation and compliance with those entities that be, and with those bigger electric utility companies like PSO, OG&E. We're working with them to see how much capacity they have on their grids that we can add solar to, because we don't want to overload their old dying out infrastructure, but also creating new projects for them to be able to add more transmission capabilities, because at the end of the day, every utility needs more infrastructure. We just need to find a way to work together. So.
Yeah, thank you for that presentation. Can you expand on your business model a little bit and how you're going to stay cash flow positive with putting a ceiling on the amount of the $50 per month, and what's to stop potential customers from using way more than $50 a month of electricity?
Yeah, so I'll answer your second one first, and then I'll bounce to the first one. But there is a cap on the unlimitedness. So for most low-income communities, our unit economics is 10 megawatt or 10 kilowatts per system. Most of them aren't even going to have a capacity that much to be able to handle that anyway, or use that much. And then we just kind of tack on $50 for every 10 kilowatts added on top of that. So the the business model of how this works is we are completely changing the way that these transactions happen. So we're subsidizing it with, well, it's a really long answer, but essentially we're subsidizing it with a different industry and creating a different type of revenue model that's not contingent on energy sales. So we don't necessarily care about selling the energy for any type of cost. This new business model that we're developing, and yeah, so I'm sure you know of carbon credits and renewable energy credits. There is more pressure from companies and corporations to not purchase low quality credits that are, buying a carbon credit, but then another person purchases that same credit and, there's no real impact there. So we're really focused on creating projects and a model for a type of energy credit that is tied to the actual infrastructure. So you can kind of think of it as investors or companies purchasing portfolios of projects to own the actual energy generating asset and monetizing off of the new types of credits.
You talked about how y'all pivoted. Could you just go back to that slide when you changed your goals? And can you just share a little bit about the coalition building? I think I'm asking everybody the same question.
Right.
What was it that, you talked a little bit about this, explain a little more, the catalyst for the change in your goals and why it's important?
Yeah, so our original goals here was to sign up 500 North Tulsa homeowners, train 45 North Tulsa community members, and install on 10 homes and grow a coalition to 30 members. So the biggest change, we were pretty close to our target for the coalition members, but we reduced that initiative because everybody on our team, we were pretty much at capacity for the help that people can bring on. And we had lots of cheerleaders that wanted to come, but we really wanted to have a strategic approach with what each coalition member did and the value that they would bring to not only us, but to the community. So on the installation for the 10 houses, essentially we just needed more funding for that. So we used our own dollars of what you guys were able to provide for us to self-fund those projects. So we installed it ourselves. I mean, you see us on the roof doing the installation ourselves. We permitted these projects ourselves. But we also work with other local community or local solar installation companies to kind of join in on our initiative. It's difficult because many companies are looking for, if they're doing a project, they want to have either a large project or multiple projects all at once. But without having the funding to do that, it's really difficult to get them to allocate time to us. So really it comes down to just needing to raise capital to be able to keep our operations going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations to all of our teams. Can we give another big round of applause to all 10 teams and the fantastic job that they did today? Excellent. Well, I think everybody did a great job sharing their stories. It's going to be a very hard decision for our judges. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm glad that's not my decision to make. But all of these teams are winners. Really thrilled to hear the progress that all of these coalitions have made. So you're all ready for the next 10 presentations, right? Kidding. So we're going to ask Roy and Lorraine to be in that back corner of the room for the next 10 minutes or so. So if anybody wants to go and ask some questions or network with them, they're available. And then I think we'll actually start the next portion of our program a little bit early at 10:50. What time is it? 2:50 p.m. We'll kick off the team ideation session, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But we felt like our roundtable discussions yesterday, our workshops were a little rushed, and so we want to give as much time as possible for that this afternoon. So take a quick break, and we'll see you back in here at about 2:50. Thanks.
Resource of all of you and the network from the prizes. The way that we want to form future-looking work for the national labs, which are funded by your tax dollars primarily, is by taking input from real people doing real work with real problems and addressing them, and flowing that into the research context and figuring out how we can develop clean energy solutions at NREL, how we can develop clean energy solutions that are actually needed by people on the ground. What better way to do that than with the 600 plus winners of the American Made program, various prizes, all the prizes. I think there are like 70 now. So I'm super excited to be here because one of the things we've really been thinking about with the prize program, in 2018, it was one prize. I think the prize was the prize purse was $300,000. We're up to 65 prizes now, almost 70, I think. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars in prize money. So as we have grown, many of you are entrepreneurs, as we have grown and scaled, we're really thinking about not just the future research areas and how we can work with you all to identify those and really bring the power of the national labs, which again are your labs. We're supposed to be doing your work and work to support you, how we can really bring that work forward and think about what is next, not just for the national labs, but also for the prize program. So I wanted to, before I hand it back over, I just want to talk a little bit quickly about what we're working on as the future programs. And if you have interest, I would invite you to email me, which is my first name, my last name @nrel.gov. And I will be as responsive as I can be. I will respond. And I would love to hear your comments on what you think the National Lab would be doing. I know you don't have a lot of time. That's why we're here taking notes, hearing about the challenges, and trying to do that work ourselves also. But I'd love to hear directly from you as well. That's for the prize program. The way that we've formulated what we're working on now at JICEA is through prize input, university input, nonprofit and cultural broker input, and a wide variety of other interviews and convenings that we've done over the last 3 or 4 years. And so the 4 primary areas that we're working on, if you are interested, please come talk to me, are the clean energy workforce. So how are we going to scale workforce? It is a critical barrier for clean energy technology, and our mission is clean energy for the world. So how are we going to get there? I've been marking my notes that people sitting with me know on like which programs are workforce. How can we think about scaling programs to meet the immense need that we have coming up because of CHIPS bill and IRA, and also just in general, the clean energy revolution. And how do we do that with good paying jobs? So that's one of the areas. We're also working on hard to decarbonize industries. We've been working on that for a while. So that's agriculture and heavy industry primarily. So what we're really looking at there are how are we thinking about electrification, and then beyond electrification, how are we thinking about resolving some of the challenges in the communities, or at least not exacerbating challenges in communities where a lot of these hard to decarbonize industries are currently living, and how do we leverage the partnerships we've made through the prize program and other partnerships to really make sure that that research is beneficial, provides public benefit, I think is what I was looking for there. The third area is society technology interface. As renewables have mainstreamed, a lot of challenges have arisen just from that success alone. So, in 2012, the big one, in 2012, we started seeing data that even if you normalize for income, you have a wider and wealthier population adopting clean energy technologies. I've been working in this field for 20 years, and that will not be my legacy. And I don't think it's going to be the legacy of anybody who has worked in technology development and really wanted to improve society. And so we're really working on the Justice 40 initiative, but also supporting more broadly, how can we think about the way that we're doing research to deliver technologies that are more appropriate and more wanted by a larger number of Americans. And we're looking at what the prizes are doing to try to do that, among other things. And then the last one is, there are some other things in society-tech interface. Site acceptance is one of them. Siting of renewables is getting a little tricky out there. And so I'd love to talk about that with people if they're interested. And then the last one is the one that I am very, very passionate about, which is really around climate adaptation and the role of clean tech in that. Historically, clean technology has really been all about mitigation on the climate space. But as someone said to me earlier at lunch, they were like, yeah, that ship's kind of sailed. And while mitigation is still a really, really critical piece of our mission, adaptation is something we really need to think about in terms of where will people be domestically in the United States, and what are the clean technology pieces that are needed. So those are the 4 primary areas that we're working on. Looking into the future. If you think those are wrong, I definitely want to hear from you. If you think they're right and you want to get involved, then I also want to hear from you. The future of the prize program though, so I'll just wrap up with this. We're really looking to better understand, and we've done this through a number of mechanisms, trying not to put weight on the prize winners. So, but what works, what doesn't work, what types of things are people proposing on? You'll notice this wasn't a workforce challenge. We didn't specifically say workforce at the very beginning of this thing. Almost all of the winners are workforce or have elements of workforce programs. I have a lot of theories on why that is. It's because you work in places with people in them. And so we really think that's very interesting finding from a lot of our prizes, and a lot of them are going in that direction. So we're really trying to figure out what are the things that are working, what is not working, how can we illustrate the impact of not just the individual prizes within the communities, but translate that into actual like deep dive research, right? One of the things we're tracking or trying to track is how much follow-on funding. We don't need to know from who, but like what things did the prize help support for you, right? That way we can design prizes that are more likely to do that support for people in the future. And so we're really working on design in that element. And we're also trying to create a network, finally, a network of folks, the American Made Network, which you can join. And I'm sure Debbie spoke yesterday about this, I'm sure. It's our big talking point. Please join the network. It's the way to keep up with us. It also helps you engage with other folks. And how do we leverage that network to be more beneficial in the context of all of the other networks that are out there is something we're really trying to think about. But it has proven we get great feedback from people who've connected within the network. And I really think it's a good opportunity, and I love seeing the things that come out of it. So with that, I think I will pass back over to Lynn and stop talking about JICEA's future and start talking about the future of these programs.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liz. Fantastic. So with that, we're going to now head into an ideation session. And the purpose of this is, so we're going to ask each of the teams, so the tables have been labeled. There are 10 tables with number labels on them, and they kind of go like this, starting at 1 and making their way back to 10. Not every table has a number on it. And those numbers correspond with the teams, and we'd like you to go in order of which you pitched. So if you were the first person to pitch, you are 1. If you were the 5th person to pitch, you are 5. And we'd ask those teams to go station themselves at those tables. And then everybody else, we'd like you to mix yourselves up as much as possible. And if your coalition has a bunch of people and you don't all need to be at one table, maybe send delegates out to other tables to be part of other tables' conversations. So we're gonna ask people to start walking around and figure that out. And then the moderators too. So this is like elementary school. Can we all get to our spot on the carpet? And then the moderators are also going to look for the numbers that are on the tops of their papers and go to those tables. And I'm just going to explain a little bit about what's going on while we get ourselves situated. So we're going to ask each team now to elaborate a little bit further on what's next for their vision and what outstanding needs you have. And as our audience members listen to the team members, if something resonates with you and inspires an idea, jot it down on the sticky notes.